Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
Bob Anthony. Good to see you, Eric.
Hey, Bob. And here we are, starting again, another edition brought to you by the good graces of Zoom and hopefully Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And I'm having software problems, but with luck, we'll make this work. We're taping the Wednesday before our Monday air. And breaking story, just a few hours ago, the Louisville grand jury came down with some form of an indictment. Tell us a little bit about what they did, what they said, and how it actually plays.
Sure, it came down this Wednesday as we're taping ahead of the Monday broadcast. And it's basically the grand jury in Louisville came back on the Breonna Taylor case, indicting only one of the three officers and indicted him on a charge of reckless endangerment, which is a much lower charge than people were expecting: murder or manslaughter. And I believe the bail was set at something like $15,000, which is impressively low compared to what people were expecting. So, as a couple of news agencies have pointed out, the charge doesn't actually relate to Breonna Taylor's death. It is a charge of recklessly handling the situation, but it's not. It doesn't directly attach it to uh, her death, which is apparently, well, obviously why a lot of people are set in Louisville right now.
Yeah, the fact that she's dead, nobody's indicted for causing her death. Um, my guess is between now and the time we air on Monday, there may be a lot more of a reaction in the city of Louisville than we've seen so far this afternoon. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of other pieces that are still out there, like a possible federal civil rights suit. Of course, the city already settled with the family. What was it, like $12 million
Yeah.
settlement with the locality? So that piece of it was actually done rather speedily, but people were obviously expecting some charges against the people who perpetrated the the death.
Yeah, you mentioned something, I believe, about earlier about possible some kind of fine or something, but is there even any thought to any prosecution, jail time, or anything for the death of this young lady?
Well, it's like I was saying, the bill was set at $15,000, which is, it sounds like a burglary case almost, with bail set at that level.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not the charge people were expecting. It after, especially after all this time, we've had plenty of time to go through the pieces of what happened, the alleged the warrant that was carried out at the wrong place, the shots that were fired, and the defensive shots that were fired by Breonna Taylor's boyfriend when he heard people breaking in. Uh, I don't hear that being fully explained, but this is what the grand jury, the people, and the grand jury is made up of like the same people they would pick for jurors.
Mhm.
That's what they decided to do today.
Yeah. All right. So I the interesting thing is it all depends on what the black folks in the community of Louisville decides their reaction is going to be vis-a-vis this very, what should I say, not necessarily unexpected in the nature of the fact that police officers who kill people, whether they're black, white, yellow, green, or any other color, usually tend not to get indicted because most grand juries give them the benefit of the doubt because they are police officers. And I felt, we all felt that in the wake of what's been happening in the last 6, 8 months, that the climate had changed enough for people to think in terms of holding these cops accountable for their actions when people lose their lives. Uh, by
Yeah,
virtue of how many shots? I think they shot her 7 times,
I believe
and there
so.
were a lot more bullets that went into that apartment.
Yes, and I guess that was the nature of the indictment. They were saying that the one cop who was indicted shot through a door. So rather, didn't know what was on the other side before he opened fire. That was the supposed reason for this
Mhm.
indictment. But yeah, you're right. In the past, we've seen these grand juries happily agreed to by the police involved in it, because in the past it was considered an automatic dismissal.
Jail card, yeah. Yeah, I tell you, I I don't know what the reaction is going to be. The, of course, we know, depending on how Louisville goes, what may or may not happen, this is going to pose another potential law and order platform for the Republicans in the Senate and the would-be supposed, I say supposed president in the White House as part of his law and order campaign. Um, so let's see,
Yeah, I assume you've seen some of his ads already, some of the 45's ads, and they're just so out of hand, so inaccurate. So uh, uh, he's, and we've discussed this before, he's shooting to scare suburban housewives into thinking that this will come, these uprisings will come to their neighborhoods if he's not elected, which is of course a stupid argument because he's president right now and these marchers are coming to their neighborhoods. So it's
yeah.
but you're right, if things go bad in Louisville, it will be another thing for the president to show that the country somehow needs him.
Well, the law and order um, trope and the, the initiative that they have been riding goes back to 68 and Richard Nixon. And this is almost a carbon Nixon redux on riots in the streets and rampant disorder, to the point where, if you remember, your president, this 45 guy, I call him your president because I said before he's not my president. He issued an executive order a week and a half ago, once we aired, to the effect that he wanted anarchist cities to be designated by the Justice Department so that they could think in terms of defunding those cities, blocking them from federal funds. And the Justice Department duly, within a week, listed 3 cities as, quote, anarchist cities where they were noted for not requesting law and order, noted for allowing anarchy in their streets, and some other part of the list that's, refusing to accept federal aid to quell the disorder and the anarchy. And so he listed Portland, which has been in the news all summer, Seattle, and the city of New York. And you
Yes,
and
he
I
did.
both know that the city of New York is not anywhere near in any state of anarchy, but these cities are all in states where there are Republican governors and Republican mayors. And so it looks as if, once again, he has the attorney general becoming
You mean Democrat, correct?
Democratic governors and Democratic
Mayors and
mayors. Right. Did I say Republican?
yes, yes.
That's Freudian.
But yeah, that's exactly.
And so the bottom
But
line is, this guy is really got the attorney general and the Justice Department basically doing his work for him, as far as politicizing the country and dividing the country.
he definitely is. And if you read the press release directly from the Department of Justice, like I did a few days ago, he specifically names Cuomo and De Blasio as not, it's in the order. It's in the DOJ press release as not doing their jobs and not accepting the
Mhm.
president's help when offered, and allowing turmoil to take place. And it points out the protests. And if, you and I both, we were talking about this the other day, our Constitution says you're allowed to protest peacefully. And I don't know, and it's right there in the press release saying that that's part of the problem, and that is protesting things that you don't think are right is not a problem. But you're right, this attorney general is doing the bidding of 45 at his pleasure. So what little respect I had for him kind of got drained with this one.
Well, I had no respect for Barr even before he got to be Attorney General because I had remembered the fact that he was George H.W. Bush's Attorney General, and he's the guy who convinced George H.W. Bush to pardon all those Iran-Contra people. And so the nature of the beast is he's always been an illegal perpetrator or a perpetrator of illegality from the time
Yes.
he's been in power, from the time he was the Attorney General for the first Bush presidency. So Barr does not surprise me. And of course, Trump has never surprised me because we knew what he was coming out
Yes.
of New York from the days as a racist landlord and uh, uh, the preeminent birther in the time of
Yes.
Obama's presidency. So none of that surprises me. But
Now,
still,
Eric, I was trying to remember. Maybe you do better. I can't remember the. Was it Bush one who had that famous campaign ad with
yeah,
the rotating, with the revolving doors around the jail and the face of a black man?
yeah,
Uh,
that was it was either the Willie Horton campaign.
that's it,
Yeah,
Willie
yeah,
Horton. I was trying
yeah.
to remember the name. Yeah.
That was Lee Atwater and Bush the first. Atwater was his big campaign strategist.
Okay.
He's the guy who, in closed door meetings, says we can turn this on its head by not saying N word. I would normally say it, but
Yeah.
people are very shy about that. But we just talk about suburbia and we talk about states' rights and we talk about whatever, and people will understand what we're saying without using the N word. And
Right.
that was Lee Atwater's very non-coded advice to the H.W. Bush people about winning his presidential election. And he
Yes.
followed it. People
Uh,
claim he regretted it, but the point of the
yes.
matter is he went down that road willingly. And
That's why I have partial respect for him. He did regret it, but he was so, he accepted it quite well at the time because
he,
it served the purpose.
he did. He
Yeah.
did. And they have followed that playbook. Ronald Reagan followed that playbook after um, Nixon. H.W. Bush followed it after Reagan. And Donald Trump, he stopped the dog whistling and the coded stuff. He just comes out with a trumpet. He outright says, "Yeah, I'm a
That's
white supremacist, and all those
yes.
other brown and black people, they're rapists. They're bad people. We're going to keep those bad people, those bad black and brown people, from coming to your suburbs. That's his thing. And because the guy knows that he's in deep trouble in just about every corner of the the federal and state justice system, because the New York State Attorney General is coming after him. The federal
Yes.
government's going to want him for obstructing justice way back when. Uh, Mueller probe stuff. A new book is out right now by one of the staffers on Mueller's group saying, yeah, they had evidence of the obstruction of justice. They didn't pursue it because, according to the Justice Department guidelines, you cannot charge a sitting president. That's not a law. That's not a rule. That's just custom.
Yes.
So they didn't pursue it. So yeah, he knows all that stuff is sitting there. So he's going to steal this election as best he can, this upcoming election. And as you and I were talking earlier, you've got some stats basically about how badly they're trying to deal with suppressing the vote, especially mail-in ballots. That's the new initiative. Matter of fact, both parties are in court right now over mail-in ballots. What's your research show on how many lawsuits the Republicans have been filing to prevent people from actually voting. The interesting thing is the Republicans are trying to stop people from voting. The Democrats are in court trying to help people to vote.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the difference between the different lawsuits. What's your
It's
take on what have you seen on that those
well,
suits?
yeah, it's astonishing, Eric. I mean, you can look at so many states that, right, they're doing the right thing and they're offering to mail absentee ballots to whoever wants them. Never mind if you're going to be out of the city or out of the county or whatever. They just, you wouldn't need one. Either you can ask for one, or some jurisdictions are saying they're just going to send them out, and we'll verify them as they come in. But in states like, and looking at my list here, states like, and I don't know what the latest upshot of all of them are, Tennessee, Indiana, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and South Carolina. If you want to, for most of them, if you wanted an absentee ballot, uh, COVID-19 would not be a valid reason for asking for one. That we're neck deep in this pandemic, but uh, it's not a valid reason. I'm looking at the Texas ruling. I'm reading from the Texas Tribune. It said lack of immunity to COVID-19 uh, doesn't qualify as doesn't qualify a voter for a mail-in ballot. And this is something that the Republicans have gone to court and gotten supported by the Texas Supreme Court, and similarly in Tennessee and some of these other states. So yeah, they're removing them, putting as many roadblocks to easily getting and submitting a ballot, and it's insane. But we know why it's being done. The voter suppression suppresses the people, specific uh, uh, people that they don't want in the to vote, and to try to steal a few states.
Um, I believe Pennsylvania ruled against the Republicans in their efforts to curtail the counting of the ballots that were mailed in. I think the judge said, look, this is a power play. You need to count those ballots. And I think he struck down their efforts to not count ballots that came in after Election Day. I think the judge ruled that up to 3 days after the election, uh, those ballots would be countable. Uh, there are any number of states. Matter of fact, there was an article, I forget, it may have been something that the NBC News people covered. Let me see if I can call it up, where they're talking about the number of states where these lawsuits were being filed. It says in North Carolina, Democratic legal groups filed a lawsuit arguing that states should provide prepaid postage for all ballots, eliminate the requirements for 2 witnesses to sign a mail-in ballot, extend the deadline for when a mail ballot must be received, and allow for voters to fix any signature discrepancies before the state can reject the ballot. So they're in court trying to make sure that people can vote by mail despite laws that might make it more difficult. Florida
Right.
Democratic organization filed a lawsuit seeking to suspend ballot return deadlines and laws limiting who is allowed to collect vote by mail ballots and deliver them to local election offices. See, all these lawsuits that the Republicans have filed in these states are all designed to make it more difficult for states, for people to vote in those states. And it's in Minnesota, it's in Arizona, it's a whole slew of states. They filed a suit in California saying you can't mail out ballots to every voter.
Yeah, it's
They've just been filing suits left and right to stop people from voting. Whereas the Democrats are in court trying to demand that people be allowed to exercise their right to vote. So and the fact that they're trying to use the legal system to shore up their lack of ability to get people to vote for them freely and fairly means that they are trying to totally co-opt the judiciary of this country. And that's this whole battle now about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's successor. I don't know how much
Yes.
time we have, but the bottom line is we need to at least give a shout out to Ruth Bader Ginsburg even if we don't want to get into the battle that's going to be fought to replace her.
Yes, yeah, you're right. We have about 7.5 minutes left. Yeah, her death came as such a surprise to all of us because we knew she was fighting her health issues on a number of different fronts. But at last report, I thought, we all thought she was in good enough health to, say, make it through the year.
Yeah.
So when we got the news, it broke all of our hearts. And
Yep.
I'm happy to say that the municipal building here in Brooklyn will be, according to the mayor, will be renamed for her. So that'll be something nice for me to see when I step into the 4 train
Yeah. That,
in front of it.
that former police officer, your current borough president, Eric Adams, he's the guy who said, let's rename that municipal building in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
He certainly did.
Yeah.
And you're right, Eric. The shenanigans that are going on, and of course, if we started to get into Mitch McConnell, we would upset each other with what he did to Obama in not allowing even a hearing on his nomination of Merrick Garland, and for him to turn around and say, "Let's get this done in a hurry." I would upset myself if we got too deep into him.
I don't remember. See, Father Tiffany taught me some really strong American history and by way of Supreme Court decisions and the separation of powers in the three branches of government. But I can't quite recall whether or not the Democrats would have the ability or opportunity in a Senate confirmation vote to go into some kind of filibuster. I just can't, and I didn't get a chance to look it up so we could talk about it, because for me, was that if that option were available to them, then they would be remiss, to put it mildly, if they didn't filibuster an entire voting process from whenever it started to election day.
I agree.
I'm not sure that that option is available. When I was younger,
I'm with you. I don't know if any kind of mechanism
yeah,
is available that would do that.
yeah. I should have looked it up so we could at least put that on the table. My guess is nobody's mentioned it, so it's not open to them, but one never knows. Sometimes the obvious is overlooked. And because they've been talking about getting rid of the filibuster for years, and other people on both sides have been saying, no, that's not a smart thing to do because you never know when it might be needed to protect the American people. And this could be exactly one of those times when it's needed to protect the American people. But I'm not sure it's an option that's available. So I guess a note to self, check on whether you can filibuster a confirmation vote in the Senate when it comes to a Supreme Court nominee.
Right, right. It's upsetting that we're at this point that we have to consider such things. But yeah, anything they can do to run out the clock past January 1st, which is when the new senators would actually be sworn in, not the 20th, the 1st.
Yeah.
Anything they can do to delay it beyond that date would be fabulous, just to avoid giving 45 an opportunity to. I was going to say poison the court. Maybe that'd be a little too strong, but to get his, you know, his person in there.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is they're already shifted too far to the right on the conservative side. So this will give them a super majority on the conservative side with whoever this guy nominates. And people need to understand that it is not just the fact that it's a conservative judge that's going to be on the court. It's how that conservative judge is going to rule. And the Affordable Care Act is definitely in jeopardy. You have all kinds of things, whether it's abortion rights in jeopardy. You have any number of things pertaining to gun rights and curtailing the proliferation of guns and non-curtailment of the proliferation of guns by passing certain laws and getting them upheld. and getting a true interpretation of the Second Amendment, because this conservative court is never going to interpret the Second Amendment the way it was originally intended when it was written. So this judge that gets appointed is going to be a significant turn for the worse for the American people if it turns out to be another conservative judge, in my
I'm
opinion.
I'm I'm glad you enumerated it like that, because you just rattled off a whole bunch of reasons why people need to show up and vote, not just for the president, but in these Senate races. That's what's going to prevent this, what you just said, these items from going bad, from these issues from going bad. There's so much more than the presidential election alone to get, reasons to get to the ballot. So yeah, this is going to be a bad term in the Supreme Court if Trump gets his way. And we have about a minute and 45 left.
Bob, one of the conversations I've had with more than one individual, yourself and Ray and a few other people, Dr. Singer, is the fact that this election can't be a nail-biter election. Joe Biden has to win the presidency in a resounding manner, if not a landslide, in such a wide margin that they can't steal it, because all this voter suppression, the fact that the judge had to rule against these people a week and a half ago about putting back the things in the post office that they tried to kibosh just to stymie voting by mail. Federal judge says this is an appalling attempt at subverting an election. Those are my paraphrase of his words. But he said, this is totally unacceptable. Reverse everything you've done, etc. They want to steal this election. They will steal this election if it's close. And you need almost a landslide so you could try to get Mitch McConnell out of that position in the Senate. If you can't flip the
I
Senate,
couldn't agree more.
if you
Yeah.
can't flip the Senate, I'm pretty sure you'll hold on to the House, but you need to not only hold on to the House, you need to flip the Senate, and you need to get Mitch McConnell out of that position, because that's the guy that stole that seat with the Merrick Garland stiff. It's the guy who's going to try to steal this seat by ramming through another quick hearing on whoever.
Okay.
Guy 45.
And okay, and we have 15 seconds.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. All I can say is let's hope Louisville does not fall apart as a result of that indictment. This has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. You can catch up to us on YouTube and Twitter at Media Watch EVT.
And we'll catch you the next time.